Hello.
Well done.
Welcome to NME's weekly album club. I am Leonie Cooper.
I'm Jordan Bassett.
And we're going to talk about many albums today, aren't we? Well, four, yeah. That's loads. That's like one more than normal.
That's one more than normal,
Exciting,
yeah.
isn't it?
You're getting a lot of bang for your buck.
Because it's a big albums day today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some big hitters are hitting today, including...
Jack White
with
his third album,
Boarding House Reach. So Jordan, this is Jack White's third album, third solo album after he was in a little band called the White Stripes. Were you a fan of the White Stripes?
I've heard of them, very much so. I fell in love with a girl.
Yeah, but were you a fan of the White Stripes?
Yes, I was, yeah. I was very much so.
Great band. So he branched out solo, gosh, what, a few years ago now. This is his third album. It has come about roughly 4 years after the last, so he's sort of been in the wilderness for a bit. He's been producing for other people and kind of just being the king of Nashville for a while. And then he's come back with this album, which is mad.
It's totally mad.
And I am so into it.
It's too mad.
Right, okay.
It's blown my tiny mind.
It blew my kind of medium mind.
Do as a chorus, Jack. Just do a chorus.
There are choruses on there. So
There's no
basically,
choruses on it.
he's sort of just exploded the album on this record.
That's true.
My hot take.
It's a deconstructed album.
My teeny tiny hot take.
It's like when you go to a posh restaurant and they do like a deconstructed pie.
Yeah, and you're like,
bits of
what
crust.
is this? And then you eat it, you're like, oh, it is still delicious.
Yeah, I've sifted through the crust of this album and there's no meat.
Mate, it's mad meaty.
To continue the pie metaphor.
It is a delicious pie, which tastes a bit like if you had Tom Waits and the Beastie Boys in a pie together.
Right, okay.
It would taste like this. So he's bringing loads of crazy stuff in. He's doing, there's that kind of that bluesy stuff for which he is known is there, but then there's some country stuff, there's some funk in there, there's some hip hop in there. Yes, Jack White raps. That's a very good noise. No, Jack White's rapping. There's a song on here about robbing a bank. There's a song called Ice Station Zebra.
There's one called Why Walk a Dog.
Why not?
Because they like it. They enjoy it.
Well, I don't enjoy it. Sometimes you just have to do it so they don't shit in your house.
Well, that's true.
That's
you
why
said
you
you had a
walk
hot take. What's your hot take?
Oh, I said my hot take, but I put it into another metaphor.
Oh, okay.
It was the Tom Waits meets Beastie Boys thing.
Right, okay. What happened is you slid it into the pie metaphor.
Exactly,
it was
yeah.
under the crust of the pie.
Because I thought you were just ignoring my hot take,
Right,
so I
okay.
just popped it in the pie, whacked it back in the oven, gave it another 10 minutes, and... Ooh.
Should we leave the pie thing for now? I feel responsible for
Oh,
that.
I'm starving, Jordan. So yes, back to the record. Very experimental. That's why I was kind of mentioned Tom Waits. Tom Waits was a more traditional singer-songwriter in the 70s, throughout most of the 70s, and then in the mid-80s he released a record called Swordfish Trombones, which just like...
Right, yeah.
exploded the album, and he was like doing mad stuff like dragging chairs across the floor of the studio and saying like, just record that's the sound I want on the record.
Right,
and I feel like Jack White has done this on this album as well. He wrote the album, basically he just locked himself up in a room on his own with a little 4-track and a mixer, a really basic mixer, and just like kind of wrote everything in there, and then obviously went to Third Man Studios to record it properly. But he really like did like out into the wilderness stuff here to come up with all the crazy things that are happening in his mind. His mind is probably a very interesting place.
The first single, I think, was Over and Over, wasn't it? That is the one that sounds most like a song.
There's a couple of songy song ones on here. What's Done is Done is towards the end of the album, and that is just like a bluegrassy ballad of which you would be...
Yeah, that's true. That's so good, that song, and it's got that is good, actually. And it's got like that kind of weird... There was it is quite a traditional song, but then there's like there's that weird sort of like humming sound,
like a buzzing, just like Jack. Have you switched everything in the studio off?
Yeah, there's something.
You know, every single sound on this album he has thought about and deliberated over and been like, no, I want that weird humming sound here. I want all this in. Yeah,
that is good, and it gives the song a kind of like a slightly disconcerting quality, isn't it? There's sort of a bit of a sense of foreboding.
There's the whole album is very tense experience listening to it. You're just like, what is going to happen next?
But it's very fragmented. It's not like hooky.
What? It's not hooky?
Yeah, it's not
robbing
hooky.
a bank. Get in the mine shaft, Jordan.
Yeah, but then...
Why don't you get in the mine shaft?
Okay, maybe there's glimpses of hookiness, but it's so fragmented and it's very scattershot. Like, you'll have a hook like that for like 20 seconds or something, and then he'll move on to something completely different.
Yeah, brilliant.
No.
You're so traditional, Jordan.
I'm traditional.
But we know that about you. You're a traditional man with traditional values.
I'm just like, what is this? Is
it stressful? I can sense this record stresses you out.
It's stressful. It's just a lot of it's just like a lot of chaotic noise.
Yes. That is exactly what it is, and that's why I enjoy it, because it's just so different from what he's done before. Obviously on the last kind of albums he is known for experimenting and doing stuff like that, but this time he's just like, right, I'm gonna bloody go for it.
There's like classic rock elements in it as well. There's bits of it that sound a bit like Black Sabbath.
Yeah, over and over and over. Is that it's almost Black Sabbathy, kind of Def Leppard, Wolf Mother, hair metal-y kind of. Yeah.
And when we listened to it in the office, I think we were listening to Respect Commander, and that was the one that you said reminded you of Wolf Mother. Yeah,
that's got like the funky bass breaks in it. There's like Stevie Wonder stuff happening, and he uses vocoders and things like that.
But that Respect Commander is strange, because that one starts off as this kind of like slinky sort of like plinkety plonkety thing, and then it just evolves into this massive like classic rock banger for about a minute, and then he moves on to something else.
All of the songs do that. They kind of start somewhere and then take you somewhere completely different, and then bring it back, and then you're like, well, which song are we on? I kept on getting confused about which song we were on.
Self-indulgent.
He's Jack White. He's allowed to be self-indulgent.
Right, okay.
If I was Jack White, I'd be so self-indulgent. I'd just sit there eating trifle all day. That is the peak of self-indulgence, by the way.
Same.
Trifle. Oh, imagine all the face masks I'd have. Bubble baths.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It would.
I'd just go out and buy roll necks.
So self-indulgent, Jordan. Cashmere.
Right. So it depends. Your attitude to this album will depend on how much your tiny mind can wrap itself around the deconstructed nature of this record.
You've got a medium mind, though. You can probably handle it.
For me, what we're doing out of 5 still?
Yeah.
It's a 2 or a 3. It's a 3, because at least he's doing something different.
Okay, 5.
What?
Again.
I don't really know how to process that. All right.
We can talk about it later if you want.
Yeah, I need therapy.
Let's talk about another record that is also out today, Jordan.
Okay. Should we do
Sunflower Bean with 22 in Blue?
Sunflower Bean?
Second album.
All 22 years old.
I know. Second album come out 2 years after first album.
Right.
All 22, called 22 in Blue.
Yeah.
They've got a thing about numbers, haven't they, Jordan?
A little bit of a thing about numbers.
They're numerologists, do you think?
Yeah, so this record is focused on the idea of aging.
Oh.
They're 22 years old.
Old timers.
Come on.
On their Zimmer frames. These elderly 22-year-olds. So, what do you like this record? I mean, I do. Everyone in the office.
I like it very much.
Yeah, it's been on so much in the office. So we are jammy people, and we get to have albums a couple of months before they come out. And we have been listening to this record like almost constantly in the Enemy office. And you know it's a good record when we keep on putting it back on rather than mocking it.
It's become a bit sort of familiar.
It's like I've been heard these songs for years. Yeah,
but then it has that quality the first time you hear the record anyway, because it's a very sort of 70s sounding record. I think in places it sounds like a kind of glam rock record. It's got kind of like a glam rock stomp.
Yeah, that Puppet String song is very, very T-Rex.
Yeah. And then there are other parts of the album that sort of sound like sort of Rumours era Fleetwood Mac.
Very dreamy.
Yeah.
So dreamy, thanks to Julia Cummings' dreaminess. Just made you want to do this.
I mean, the Fleetwood Mac element, I mean, you're in straight away.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I'm sold. Anyone tries to sound a little bit like Fleetwood Mac, I'll be there.
But Julia Cummings said in an interview with The Fader.
Okay.
Something I've noticed about getting older, at least for myself, is accepting people and being able to comment on the world more. Getting older. 22. But
you're not impressed by that, are you, Jordan?
No, I just
think they're old before their time.
They're old before their time.
They should be going out and doing like crazy young people things rather than knitting.
Like Fleetwood Mac were. But like it's very much they're clearly like proper musos, like they know their stuff, don't they?
Definitely, it's a really tight record. They're all excellent musicians. My favourite thing about this band is they look like a band as well. Not to say that their music is not as worthwhile as what they look like, but basically, so Julia looks a bit like Debbie Harry.
Yeah.
The other two guys look like Bob Dylan and Frank Zappa.
That guy, I can't remember his name, but like the one that looks like Bob Dylan looks so much like Bob Dylan. It's weird.
Totally uncanny, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so odd. Yeah, he plays guitar. So 3 of them, they're from New York. I think they all met at high school. They've been playing together for about 5 years now, since they were the grand old age of 17. And for a second album, it's just like really confident and effortless, and you hear about difficult second album syndrome.
Yeah.
None of that here.
No, it's so
this
confident.
This is breezy. They're like, oh yeah, second album.
There's a
Nailed
bit
it.
where I think they sound a bit like Sheer Mag on Crisis Fee.
Yes,
you know?
they do. Lovely, lovely Sheer Mag.
Who themselves have a bit of sort of like a 70s kind of classic rock feel.
I think that this song, Oh No Bye Bye, which is the last song, sounds a bit like the Stone Roses.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to go and give that another go.
So if you might have seen these guys around. They're not a massive band, but they did support Wolf Alice last year, and they're good friends with all of them. We actually had them in the office the other day.
Yes.
Sunflower Bean were in the office the other day. They talked about pickled onions.
I mean, they're cool, aren't they?
I asked them what Wolf Alice had introduced them to, and they're like, pickled onions.
Really?
But they hadn't yet tried pickled onion Monster Munch.
Right, okay.
I want to see them.
Their mind is
We should have done one of those video things where you get Americans to try bizarre English food, and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, totally.
It's disgusting. How can you eat this horrible stuff?
Get
like,
some skips. There's skips in America.
Skips are nice. No, Americans don't really do crisps as much as British people.
They're not. I have a packet of crisps every day, without fail.
Because Americans eat them in big bags, and we eat them in small bags. It's harder to eat a big bag on your own.
Oh, yeah,
it is possible.
They have chips.
Chips and dips.
Anyway, back to Sunflower Bean. The opening track, Burn It, the lyric is, this town, burn it to the ground.
Oh!
Which is just so cool, isn't it?
That's rock and roll, that is.
This is
That's like a Springsteen lyric.
Yeah, totally. But they are like very rock and roll. Like, there is a way you could look at kind of the way that they carry themselves and dress and like the kind of music they make. You could say it's like a bit cliche, but I don't think it is. I think they just have fully embodied what it means to be a band, and especially a band from New York. Yeah,
they know what they're doing, but it, in a kind of effortless way. And when we were talking to them when they were here last week, Julia was saying, I think her dad used to play with like bands in the East Village when she was a kid, so not that long ago, but like kind of Strokes era stuff, so he'd be playing in the East Village.
Yeah.
And she was going to shows at the Sidewalk Cafe, which is this place in the East Village where basically anti-folk music was born. So she's been around it since she was little. And you can tell that they've all got, like, their parents probably been quite strong influences on all of them. And sat them down and been like, you need to listen to Blood on the Tracks.
Yeah.
And maybe do your hair like that as well.
Yeah. Ideally have Bob Dylan's face.
Yeah. And mwah.
Yeah, smashed
marvellous.
And it's very literate as well. There's 22 cops a Dylan Thomas line. It's, I do not go quietly into the night that calls me. It's good. I got a little shiver when I said that there.
Oh, so did I.
Yeah. So overall, just like smart, cool, sassy, confident, literate. Good lads. Good lads. Just good lads.
How many stars?
Do you know what? I'm going to give it 5 big ones. 5 big smackers for Sunflower Bean. I'm going to give it 4 big smackers. Okay, what is preventing you from giving it a 5? Because I think the third album's going to be even better. Right, yeah, okay, so you need to leave a little room. Because they seem to be the kind of band who are just like, we're just going to get better. Yeah, okay, well. Got to give them room for improvement. To be continued. Up next, what have we got? We've got George Ezra. With Staying at Tamara's. So George Ezra, he's been staying at Tamara's. He has. Who's Tamara? Tamara, let me tell you, she is a woman on Airbnb. What? Okay, so George Ezra has his last record, came out in 2014. It was the 3rd biggest selling album of that year. Blimey. I think people don't understand how big George Ezra is. Outsold only by Ed Sheeran and Sam Smith. All of the lads. That year, I'm told, yeah. So he released. That'd be a night out, wouldn't it? Fucking hell. Fucking hell. He releases that album. He releases that album, tours it, which obviously takes up quite some time. And then he's like, a little bit of decompression time. What should I do to sort of think about the next album? He's like, you know what? I'll go see some places. I'll go to Barcelona. Oh, yeah. I'll go onto Airbnb, which is, I mean, other sites are available for... Are they? Actually, I don't know if they are.
for booking holiday rentals. No, they definitely are. So he goes on to this site, finds a lovely little place in Barcelona, turns up. Hi, I'm Tamara. This is my wonderful Airbnb. He's like, gosh, this is great. Her boyfriend's a musician. All the creative people are coming around. Ezra's like, man, this is it.
Ezra's on his own. He's travelling solo. He's flying solo.
He's okay. He's of age.
Yeah.
He's fine. He's concerned. His mum knows where he is.
Right. Did his mum know where he was?
I hope so. Maybe not.
I don't know.
Anyway, so he gets to Tamara's house, has a lovely time. It really gets his creative juices flowing.
Right, yeah.
And so he thinks, I'm going to call my record after that wonderful time that I spent with Tamara. He also said he'd never met a Tamara before. He thought it was a very exotic name.
Have you ever met a Tamara?
Tamara Beckwith.
You probably met a Tamara.
What is that supposed to mean?
Just, you're a woman of the world. You've lived.
Oh, right. Okay. Thanks. Anyway, so as well as going to Barcelona, he also went to the Isle of Skye.
So exotic.
He also went to a pig farm in Norfolk.
What a rock and roll life
and a former cornflower shed in Kent. And a converted cow shed in North Wales to rent. But he didn't think of calling his album after any of those. He was let's talk about Tamara's glamorous place in Barcelona.
Staying at the pig house. So,
as one of the 25 biggest sellers of the decade, has he switched things up for album number 2? Not particularly.
Nah.
No, he's just doing that kind of deep voice blues pop thing.
Yeah, can we talk about the voice?
It's very deep.
What's going on there? That sounds weird. It's like when the song first starts, when the first song comes on, Pretty Shining People. This is a very upbeat,
upbeat,
super positive album. So the first track,
sort of like that.
Yeah,
that's the horn section.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. And then he's like,
that's it. You don't need to listen to it. We've just done it for you.
Well, the first track's called Pretty Shining People, which kind of sums up the tone of that title sums up the tone of the album. And and then it starts like a sort of nice kind of like indie pop sounding thing, and then he starts singing, and you're like, what the fuck is that? He sounds like, when like a dog gets a collar put on its neck so it can't scratch itself and it's got fleas, and it's like, that's George Ezra.
He does have a very distinctive voice, if that's what you're trying to say. So this is a very wholesome album.
Yeah.
It's a harmless record. It's not sex, drugs and rock and roll.
No.
But it will be massive. This is sort of the new easy listening, isn't it? Him and Sam Smith and James Bay and Adele.
Yeah.
It's the biggest music around.
Yeah.
But it is quite wholesome.
You do, and also
there's not much edge to it.
I should say you get used to the voice after a couple of tracks. You don't even notice it anymore.
I'm quite into the voice.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like a voice with a little bit of character.
A little bit of it's got a lot of character.
Yeah.
Too much, you might say. But yeah, he's definitely got character.
There's a lot of stuff that he kind of draws on from this album, namely, it's very Paul Simon-y, Graceland. There's a lot of that going on here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of going, You Can Call Me Al going on here. There's a song called Paradise, which is very jaunty. Jaunty is what's happening here.
Super jaunty.
First Aid Kit are on here as well. If you know the gals from First Aid Kit, they're on a song called Saviour, which is the song where he tries to go kind of all moody, mean, sinister. But it all sounds still quite lovely. There's also a song here literally about having a lovely night in with your girlfriend. It's called Sugarcoat.
I like Don't Matter Now, but I think that's mainly because the opening of it sounds like Heaven is a Half Pipe by OPM. It takes me back. I think that album might have been maybe the first album I ever bought. Oh no, second.
You just keep on. Yeah, you done?
First was All Saints by All Saints.
Yeah, that's a really good record. The only kind of major rock and roll moment on this album is where he says, "Fuck it up." On Only a Human, which is this slow kind of piano John Lennon-y kind of thing, which maybe if you're buying this for your nan, warn her that there is a swear on it.
I mean, he is a good thing. He's a patron of the mental health charity Mind. He's talked about how in his Enemy Big Read interview, he talked about, in which he comes across as a very lovely chap.
Oh, so lovely.
It's so lovely, so wholesome. He talks about the fact that this album is informed by the fact that he was having these feelings that he attributes to anxiety.
Yes, on the song Get Away, which is a kind of almost a Mumford and Sonsy kind of one of them.
He says, it's never been this way before, shut down by anxiety. And he talks in the interview about the fact that like when he went to, before he went to Barcelona, he was at home, and he was, before he went to the pig farm, he was like at home watching the news, and it was making him very anxious, and he had writer's block, and he couldn't work, and then he went to Barcelona and had this experience that you're talking about, and it kind of opened everything up. And that is a lovely story, and the resulting album is very jaunty and feel good. So, you know, you can't knock him for that.
Travel is good for the soul.
It's good for the soul, yeah. Absolutely.
Also, everyone should go to Barcelona. The tapas was delightful.
I've heard that, yeah.
It's good. It's small food, Jordan.
Yeah, I like that.
You don't get much of it, and you're supposed to share it, which I was a bit difficult about at first. But
yeah. Can you tell we're both hungry?
So hungry.
Missed lunch today. This album, so. Right, so Ezra, not rocking anyone's boat, not kicking up any kind of a ruckus.
But we're glad the boat is on the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah? The boat ain't rocking, but we're glad it's floating.
I mean, I don't think I'll go back and listen to this record again.
I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5.
A 2? Oh God, that's harsher than I thought you were going to go.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't know me.
I don't. I'm discovering new things about you all the time. Noah Tamara, giving Ezra 5. No, giving Ezra 2, sorry. 2 for me as well. So's George. You're a nice guy and everything, but like...
Let's talk then, Jordan, about the classic album, 30 years old this week.
It's the Pixies with...
Surfer Rosa.
So, the debut album.
Debut!
From Pixies, 30 years ago.
And their best, I would say, their best album.
The year was 1988, the year that I was born.
Really?
The year this guy came into the world.
What an excellent year. Were you born yet, or were you about to be born?
I don't think I was born yet.
Were you in utero?
I was in utero, yeah.
In utero is interesting because Nirvana took a lot of inspiration from the Pixies. So it's because they have an album called...
Really good. What do you prefer, me or Surfer Rosa? Let's move on.
You really threw me there. Of course I prefer Surfer Rosa. I've known it longer.
That's true. What a great album.
Such a good album. So it's only half an hour long, like 33 minutes long.
It's quite long. There's quite a lot of tracks on it.
Yeah, they pile a lot in, but they're all like 2.5 minutes long, 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
So let's go. That was me rewinding time.
Yeah, I like that.
Frank Black, before he was even known as Frank Black, apparently went on holiday to Puerto Rico. Don't worry, this isn't a long story. Drove to Puerto Rico.
Did you meet her tomorrow?
No, she wasn't even involved.
Right, okay,
Maybe she was, though. Maybe she's this amazing muse who was just always there, Zelig-like.
Where does the pig farm fit into all this?
I'll get to the pig farm, Jordan.
Right.
So he goes to Puerto Rico. He's only got 2 albums with him. He's a young man. He's just out of college. He has a Talking Heads record and a Ramones record. And he drives around listening to these 2 albums. And then it's like, I'm going to bloody start a bloody band and it's going to sound like this. And if you think about it, this album does sound like Talking Heads meets the Ramones.
It absolutely does, yeah.
That kind of talking, the stuff that David Byrne, like talking, singing-y that David Byrne does, which Frank Black does on this record. And then that kind of heavy punk riffing that the Ramones were so excellent at, and just how pop it is, but how gritty and shouty it is as well.
There's a lot of like pop sensibilities in it, but everything's like warped and twisted and strange, and you've got vocals that are fed through guitar amps and all kind of like vocals and guitar riffs that are recorded in like the bathroom down the hall from the studio, so it like echoed more.
Steve Albini produced, and that's the kind of stuff that he likes to do. He's just like keeps it nice and simple. It's like, oh, you want echo? We won't make up an echo. We'll go somewhere echoey. Like, okay, Steve Albini.
Yeah. So you have, like, it's sort of the vocals and the backing vocals are sort of the strangest element of this, I think. Yeah,
and because you've got Kim Deal's vocal in there as well, and she's kind of all kind of soft and a bit husky, and then Frank Black's like wailing away, so there's this weird kind of, the masculine feminine thing is flipped around, and it's quite a gender fluid album.
Right, okay, yeah. That's
just because he's doing the kind of the high pitched bits, and she's kind of doing the gruffer bits, but also has like their best songs, I think the best Pixies songs are on here, Gigantic. Kurt Cobain said after this, like years later, I wish Kim Deal had been able to write more, because Gigantic is the best Pixie song ever. And it's the one that she wrote. Yeah, but it's not Where Is My Mind, is it? Well, Where Is My Mind is also on this album, though, isn't it? But I reckon they're the 2 best Pixies songs. Yeah, Where Is My Mind? Valoria. That's not on this one, is it? Anyway. But it was cool that Where Is My Mind kind of got introduced to a new generation through Fight Club. Fight Club, yeah. Good scene. It's a flipping good scene, that. Yeah. We won't tell you in case you haven't seen it 19 years down the line. But it's spoiler alert at the end. So we, NME, gave it 9.5 out of 10 at the time. Oh, mate. Oh! That's good. Shall I read out...
9.5?
9.5?
When do we do points?
Exactly. I think, well, this writer, who's obviously wild, so let me read out what they...
It's so good when you go through, like, old Enemy stuff. There is some fucking batshit stuff.
It really is. So, Pixies have put a viciously eccentric but very subtle curve into the rock they play and replay. If they're enticing a few folks in with the promise of a cheap, old-style rockist titillation, it's because they want to cheat and humiliate them publicly, to smack them in the face for their submission to sleaze.
God, it was so much better in those days, wasn't it?
Submission to sleaze.
Submission to sleaze.
It's really fun to say.
Legendary Enemy writer Mark Beaumont recently wrote of this album that it sounds like a surf pop band playing for their lives in a serial killer's basement.
It does though, doesn't it?
I mean, that's spot on.
It's yeah.
I can't now I've read that line. I can't get that image out of my head, and that's what I see when I listen to this.
I'm seeing
like,
the Pixies wearing Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
In a dungeon.
Yeah.
With Hannibal Lecter, just like, come on.
But weirdly, like Steve Albini was really rude about this album.
That's just his way, isn't it? Isn't he rude about everything?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that is
what
true.
did he say?
He said that their willingness to be guided by their manager, their record company, and their producers is unparalleled. Never have I seen 4 cows more anxious to be led around by their nose rings. I mean, I think they're a bunch of fucking badasses, Pixies, weren't they?
And they were all they were the same age, I think. Well, Frank Black at least was like 22, 23. I think Kim Deal was a little bit older, like 26. Still, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It sounds like The Fall, I think, as well. It's got that mad kind of wild, curveball-y, crazed, unhinged, but still really tight thing going on.
Yeah, totally. And I
just
think
mayhem.
Yeah, and I think that's the same kind of idea of having like each song's got like a pop melody in it, but it's sort of blown apart, deconstructed, like a Pie or a Jack White album.
There we go. Everything going in circles. How many stars?
5.5.
5.5 from me too. So that's
5.6 from me.
That's 5.7 from me.
Well, we could keep going like
this. It's basically a 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
All of the Stars album.
Yeah. Take them. Take that. Take that.
Take them, why don't you? Jordan, we've got a final question.
Oh, yeah?
Well, we were just going to have a little chat about some other stuff that we've been listening to this week.
We got down there.
Thank you very much. Cory Andrews, May Your Kindness Remain, is an album that I've been listening to of late. Again, it's one that comes out today, but again, I got it early because I'm smug. I like country music. You may be aware of this.
Wait, look at these boots. Come on, tell me this woman doesn't listen to country music.
I listen to a lot of country music. I've got a lot of pairs of cowboy boots, Jordan. It's kind of a problem. So this record is by this lovely singer who, I think she's, for the past 10 years, has been sort of trying to make it, to break through.
Right.
She was doing stuff like backing singer for Jimmy Eat World, things like
That's
that,
weird.
Some crazy stuff. And then released her debut album last year, and then people like Elton John, because Elton John is now big in the new music scene.
Yeah.
You know that because of his Beats show.
Right.
He found it. He was like, "This is amazing."
He's always been very good, hasn't he? At that.
He knows his stuff, does Elton John?
Stuff, yeah.
I guess that's why he calls it the blues. It didn't really work, did it? Should have done something about tiny dancers. Or
we can't cut that bit out either.
No. So she sounds like there's kind of Emmylou Harris, Linda Ronstadt, because there's another singer at the moment who I really like called Margot Price, who's a bit more kind of bolshy and a bit more the kind of the Dolly Parton's been like kind of stomping in your face.
Yeah.
This is a bit more kind of chilled out. It's actually quite a sad record. It's very heartfelt. It's very lush, very symphonic, a bit of a tearjerker. There's like some of the names of the songs on here, like 2 Cold Nights in Buffalo, The Kindness of Strangers. I've hurt worse. Long Road Back to You. It's all very sad. There's
I've hurt worse.
I've hurt worse.
Oh my god.
Can you imagine you get dumped and it's like kind of hurt worse?
Jeez Louise.
I haven't, man. Again, we mentioned First Aid Kit earlier. This is kind of a similar kind of record. Just lovely. She's got just a lovely, clear, beautiful vocal. It's just very sweet and lovely. And this, like, it sounds like this. It sounds like a vintage sofa in a good way. I like that dress she's wearing as well. On loose.
Tell you what, I've not been listening to.
What have you not been listening to?
The fucking Magic Gang.
Oh, Jordan.
They're fucking everywhere. Jesus.
You don't like this record?
Everyone seems to like it.
Jordan, why don't you like the record?
Fucking dweeby, dorky, lame, boring. It's like 4 fucking dweebs from Brighton. It's like, imagine, should we do Weezer, but like not fun or good? Should we do that? I hate it. And everyone seems to like it. I'm like, what is happening here?
You're into it.
I don't get it. Bring back Edge. Bring back Edge.
What
They're
about...
like, just like, aggressively unedgy, but not aggressive. So like dweebily unedgy.
So not Magic for you?
Not Magic for me. And the thing is, you know, people seem to think that like Enemy is like written by one person, and that, but obviously we all have different opinions.
We do.
Excellent writer Ryan Daly gave it a 4-star, a glowing 4-star review.
You're not having that, are you?
I'm reading it and I'm thinking, what? How? It sounds like music from The In-Betweeners, which was on television like 10 years ago. Just like, no. And
That's before Sunflower Bean were born.
Yeah. Before, I couldn't, obviously I didn't review this album, but I, in my own time, I took time out of my own life to write the sign-off, the final paragraph for an imaginary Magic Gang review that I wasn't commissioned to write. I thought it would never get to see the light of day, so I'm just delighted that, to have been brought onto Albums Club so I can share it with you. I want the Magic Gang to disappear into a puff of smoke. I want to put them in a box and saw them in half. I want to produce a rabbit from a hat, but the rabbit has myxomatosis and it's heading straight for the Magic Gang.
Jordan, not into the Magic Gang.
So,
there.
but I'm a very nice boys, I'm sure.
Lovely lads. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week, I suppose.
Yeah, I've been asked to point out this lovely Tea Here Now Oasis themed mug, which is available to buy from the Enemy merch store. Very good.
Delightful.
Very sturdy, hold your tea.
It's held your tea for the entire episode, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's why I left the advert until the end, because I just, you know, just so you can see
the sturdiness
of that mug.
Oh! Been ringing in my ears for years.
Yeah.
That's a little slogan there, catchphrase. Well, thank you very much.
Cheers then.
See you soon.
See you later.